In the underground beneath the Hellwoods, Talia's stepbrother Tristan was tampering with the remains of a dungeon long thought for. But the demonic evil's henchmen were hard on his heels and were also slogging their way through the underground. Tristan had no choice but to retreat.
My brothers! In your eyes I see the same fear that would lead me to despair. The day may come when the...
Tristan, you good-for-nothing imbecile! Can't you just shut up for once? Or finally come up with a different speech? That's so... Hey! Are those my armies of evil? Here! Get me out of here so I can personally kick my stepbrother's butt! Go ahead! Finish them off! Give it to them! Push her away past the expiry date cake, right in their faces!
Never! The power of magic flows through me! A magic barrier will keep those creatures at bay!
It seemed that Tristan did actually have some small knowledge of magic. His barrier was impenetrable to conventional attacks. Where magic was concerned, however, things looked just a little different. The spellbook perusing evil quickly set about tackling this problem underground. Before the mana-craving evil could resort to magic, it would first have to take care of the demons. It made perfect sense to have a vortex built to house demonic creatures. Some parts of the underground were saturated with mana. Once dug up, this could be used to cast spells. The mana-addicted evil wanted to try this out as soon as possible. A new area has been unearthed in the dungeon. The room-building evil had had a vortex built. There, hired demons found shelter and a place to wait until they could be resurrected at the cost of evilness after an unforeseen demise. You have unearthed a new area in the dungeon.
Stand fast, men! There may come a day when courage fails us, but it is not this day. On this day we fight! By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I call you to stand firm! Brothers of the kingdom! Let us lay waste to the dungeon! Attack!
You stole that speech. I've heard something very similar to that before.
That's beside the point. Those words inspired my men. The pen is mightier than the sword.
But weaker than a horde battle axe. It's just too bad that I can't be there to watch the show because I'm stuck in your stupid cage.
You have unearthed a new area in the dungeon. There are enemies in your dungeon. In the dungeon not only reduced drafts, but could also stop heroes and other enemies in their tracks for a short time. They also increased the efficiency of rooms. It therefore made sense to have a door to close off a production room. spoiled evil had discovered a few stray demons who were all too willing to join his dark army. Of all things, these were stuck in a rather awkward position. The perplexed evil pondered how to go about it.
Hey, Tristan, favorite, stepbrother, see my troops marching over there? I think they're gonna make short work of you.
Don't get your hopes up too soon, stepsister. My barrier and my men will stop them. We got what we wanted here, and we'll soon be on the road again.
Huh. Creatures, get me the hell out of here already! Come on, get a move on! Save me, free me, sign petitions demanding my release!
An arcane tear had appeared very close to the absurd evil's armies. These magical anomalies were not uncommon in the area and promised great power to those who knew how to use them. The creatures knew but one way to deal with these. The corrupting evil had captured an arcane tear. New power flowed through it, giving it the ability to now cast the meteor rain spell. As luck would have it, there was a group of heroes nearby who made worthy targets. The arcane tear's power could now be used by the spell-casting evil. The ingenious evil had managed to return the scattered demons safely back to the dungeon by means of a spell.
Talia, I still can't believe you really did all that. Weren't we like family to you?
I was constantly insulted and humiliated. Does that sound like a family to you?
Yes?
The merciless evil's army had reached the magical barrier. A spell would sweep it away. A gold vein is almost exhausted. The never-went-to-hogwash evil's little snot had built an arcanium. Should one of these gold workers manage to find the time, mana would from now on be produced here. The gallant evil had now gained access to a number of spells. Create resources, for example, allowed toolboxes or gobblers to quickly be created as if out of thin air. In keeping with his childlike disposition, the amused evil immediately tried this out. A first door now adorned the dungeon. The grandiose evil not only used it to increase the efficiency of rooms or to stop enemies for a short time, but it could also lock doors to seal off areas for its subordinates. A little snot set about generating mana in the Arcanium to make it available to the spell-wielding evil. A new area of the dungeon has been discovered. While the Cruciatus intoning evil was making its way through the protective barrier, Talia and Tristan continued upon their way.
Tristan, beloved brother, would you be so kind as to open this cage door for me? There's no need for us to argue.
Step-brother, and I simply cannot forgive you for slaying our foster father. Not to mention half of the good people of the country.
Only half? Ha! I mean, all that just kind of happened. I don't know how exactly it could all go so wrong either.
You put Tanos's head on a spear!
He bloody well deserved it! Time and again, I had to suffer insults from him and his henchmen simply because of my origins, as if all dark elves were evil.
You killed hundreds of heroes, slew Father's companions, and put Father's head on a spear!
They made me do it! It's society's fault! Tristan, I finally understand. I behaved poorly. If you let me out now, I vow to do better.
Really?
Of course not, you imbecile! I'd give you a wedgie worse than I ever gave you in our entire childhood. One you'd still be telling your grandchildren about, provided you can still have children and grandchildren at all afterwards.
Heroes heroes had entered the dungeon, while the arsonist Evil was marching its army around the overworld. Thanks to the demonic portal spell, creatures could instantly be sent back to the dungeon from the overworld.
Ding dong! It's payday!
Using Evil had conquered an arcane tear. Armed with that captured power, it could now use the Mana Shield spell.
Talia, I wish you would change your ways. Remember back when we were children and would play together by the creek?
And you threw me in?
You dropped a bee's nest on my head first!
Oh, that's right. I remember the way your head swelled up like a melon.
Enemies have entered the dungeon.
Your little snots are completely mined out a gold vein. Enemies are in the dungeon.
It's payday.
The spell-wielding evil had seized an arcane tear. The newfound magic allowed it to now use a spell to summon the Prince of Hell. A new area has been unearthed in the dungeon. A new area of the dungeon has been discovered.
There are enemies in your dungeon.
A gold vein is almost exhausted. A gold vein has been mined out. day? Enemies have entered the dungeon. Enemies have entered the dungeon. A new area of the dungeon has been discovered.
There's my army. Time for you to die, stepbrother. Go, my creatures! Grab them, run them down, rub hot chili sauce in their eyes, and get me out of this damn cage!
My brothers! In your eyes, I see...
You're not going to repeat that same old crap again, are you? Are you?
Men! Stop them!
The ice in its drink-loving Evil's armies had defeated Tristan's pathetic defenders. Evil's creatures were filled with jubilation. But the disembodied essence of Evil was not yet in the mood to celebrate, for Tristan himself had escaped and still had Tanya with him. The lingering without physical form Evil pretended to sigh and once again took up pursuit.
These sequences with me in a cage are being stretched out far too long here. Can't we talk this out somehow? Maybe rock, scissors, paper, like in the old days?
Huh. You know I always go for the good old rock. But speaking of stones, I will soon have all the stones of Finichu together. And then...
Nobody gives a damn about your stupid marbles, you dumbass.
While Tanya was engrossed in an animated discussion with her stepbrother, the brain-eating Evil was already attempting a, more or less, fruitless attempt to free her. Since undead simply resurrected somewhat later in the graveyard after their demise, an unsuccessful onslaught was no great tragedy. Admittedly, the creature-wasting Evil probably never took the loss of subordinates too tragically in the first place. But back to the subject at hand. Fortunately, there were ancient mausoleums in the vicinity, which were home to powerful undead and could provide a significant supply of reinforcements. The map-studying Evil eagerly took notes.
Ha! See that, Tristan? My armies will free me. Go on, you undead! Knock them down! Eat their brains! I don't know, just do something.
A temple with a sacrificial pit would need to be built before the merciless Evil's undead creatures could summon more minions. Quickly, the construction-obsessed Evil set about doing just that. The frivolous Evil had erected a temple. From now on, light could be stored there, which would greatly enhance the older grave-wearing Evil's undead armies.
creatures will not save you, Talia. Forward, men! Destroy this virulent wickedness!
Ding dong! It's payday! The colourful clothes-wearing evil had discovered a dungeon gate in the underground. Apparently, this was one of the 3 lost burial chambers. All that was needed to benefit from it was to open the burial chamber, presumably with a few firm blows. The gruesome evil welcomed a Bone Lord into its ranks. Not only could this mighty swordsman both dish it out and take it, but could also summon skeletal mages as minions. This was apparently the final resting place of the legendary mercenary army, the Scallywag Ragtags. The pragmatic evil was bound to have an idea as to what it could do with the undead found there. The zombie-like evil had unleashed powerful undead forces. The use of these powers meant each of its undead creatures could both move faster and summon an additional minion to its side. Each additional burial chamber would provide 1 additional minion. Strengthened by the captured blight, one of the undead creatures was able to summon a minion to its side. The extravagant evil was satisfied to note that its undead were able to use blight and minions to maximize the number of creatures that could be used carelessly. One of the undead creatures that had fallen in battle had gone to rest in the graveyard, only to rise again after some time had passed. The merciless evil was then able to send it back into battle. powerful undead forces allowed additional minions to rise from their graves.
Ding dong! It's payday!
The sacrificial evil had a temple built complete with a sacrificial pit. The greedy-looking black maw with its dark void seemed to be eagerly awaiting offerings. Presumably, the evil spirits would reward each sacrifice with some soothing blight. The experimental evil set about testing this theorem. A crate disappeared into the maw of the sacrificial pit. The evil spirits were a little confused about the sacrifice, but still spat out some blight. With a Wilhelm scream, a little snot disappeared into the depths of the sacrificial pit. This would provide the little snot-burning evil a bit of blight. It seemed as if the sacrificial pit would belch satingly were it not simply an inanimate object. The sacrificial evil had sacrificed enough things for the time being. It was time to go on the offensive. Undead forces roamed the land. Additional minions now stood available. The poking around evil had discovered another buried chamber. This tomb was dedicated to the archers of the Scallywag Ragtags. Legend has it that they could miss a barn door even at 10 meters. Their corpses would certainly be put to good use by the self-sacrificing evil. Enemies are in the dungeon. Powerful undead forces allowed additional minions to rise from their graves. The resurrected evil unleashed its accelerating undead forces. Additional minions rose.
Enemies have entered the dungeon.
Payday.
Defend the dungeon hub.
In fact, the sacrificial pit was a very versatile contemporary. Pretty much everything could be thrown in there. the sacrificial pit was a very versatile. The achievement accumulating evil had now discovered the third burial chamber as well. Undead forces roamed the land. Additional minions now stood available. The remains found here were those of the alchemists of the scallywag ragtags, who considered arsenic to be a refreshing mouth gel. These corpses would prove perfect vessels for mindless zombies. In fact, the sacrificial pit was a very versatile contemporary. Pretty much everything could be thrown in there. Powerful undead forces allowed additional minions to rise from their graves.
are getting closer, little brother. Want to go ahead and pick out a nice tombstone? Not that you'll need it when I put your head on the spear.
We do not need to further elaborate on your misdeeds, sister. My armies are not yet defeated, and the hero's courage is unbroken.
The courage may be unbroken, but the spine.
It's payday.
Ha! The vile stench of the undead is still coming ever closer. Forward, faithful! Destroy that vermin!
Problems, brother mine? Is that the sweat of fear I can see on your brow? This reminds me of when you were going to ask Chelsea Chubby Cheeks to prom.
That's not the point here.
And she dumped you because she wanted to take her dog for a walk instead. Come on, let's beat them, fry them up, smear them on our toast.
The sovereign evil had freed Talia from the clutches of her stepbrother. Pity, really. I found it quite pleasant not to have someone constantly interrupting them.
I will ignore your insolence for now, but only because I have to deal with that damn Tristan. The step in stepbrother is going to be an architectural statement when I'm done with him.
Lost in her rant, Talia had missed the fact that her stepbrother Tristan had meanwhile made a run for it.
What? That cowardly, dishonest, disgusting...
Talia had been rescued from the clutches of her stepbrother Tristan by the absolute evil. This seemed a bit surprising as, after all, Talia had accidentally caused its demise only one cutscene earlier. But the disembodied essence of the irritated evil was restless due to its lack of physical form. It needed help finding a new body. In such cases, less competent personnel were also called upon. Talia was extremely grateful to have been freed from the cage after 3 long missions. Finding a new body for the absolute evil seemed a small price to pay. High up, on the 4th highest peak in the world, Mount Snotmore, resided the venerable Council of Little Snots. These wise beings were the ones who would know what would constitute a new, adequate vessel for the absolute evil. All Talia had to do was reach the peak. A trifle, really, but unfortunately, her stupid stepbrother and his oversized army stood between her and her goal. Otherwise, however, it would have been so easy that even a group of gluttonous hobbits could have managed it.